All right, guys, welcome back. And today I want to do a little quick video. People are asking me, what can you realistically expect from a, $3,000 automated robot lawnmower? I'm referring to my experience with the A3000, but I've done a lot of research, and so a lot of these characteristics and these things to look out for are gonna be across the spectrum, no matter what machine you pick. I think these are things that you need to consider for your specific case use when picking one out. So let's get to it. All right, so what you see is what you get, guys. I haven't used the actual lawnmower of my zero turn. I do have a Kubota zero turn. I haven't used it now in about 3 weeks, and this is what the yard looks like. This part behind me is probably the best maintained as far as this is the best grass I got right here. All right, down here on this end of the spectrum, it's a little rougher. There's a little more terrain. You've got some hills and stuff like that. I do have some abrupt little hills and embankments that is having to contend with. And then up here behind the driveway, this is all at grade, and there's a lot of bigger gravel and like biscuit rocks here that it has to contend with, but I think it actually does its best work on the side of that hill. I'm not sure why, but it does a great job up there also. And I've got some drone footage, and we're gonna go over that real quick and just kind of show you what I've learned, the things that I've picked up, little tips and tricks maybe, things to consider when you're picking out your robot, because your yard may be different than mine. Yours may be a neat little square. You may have like well manicured zoysia grass or whatever. All those things are going to be things that you need to take into consideration, not just because of the technologies, but because of the mechanical parts of the robot. So let's go over that. All right, guys, so I couldn't resist doing a little bit of a flyover with the drone while I had it out. And for those of you concerned, yes, I have my commercial license through the FAA, so this is completely legal and legit for me to be able to use it commercially. So, yeah, that's the yard that I'm maintaining. And when I say yard, guys, I mean it is not a lawn. It is not manicured. There's not a border everywhere. It is typical, out in the country type yard. And you'll see those lines and everything that's in the yard. It is doing a really good job. When I first got the robot, I really didn't have any expectations. My goal was to get something to help maintain the yard in those times when I'm too busy to cut it, in the middle of the week. Because here where I live in Alabama, we've got bahia, and you can see some of that bahia sticking up right there. That the stuff pops up overnight, and it will be knee deep if you don't watch it. So the robot for me was more of a supplemental mowing. I wasn't expecting it to be the end of my lawnmower. I haven't put my lawnmower on Marketplace and gotten rid of it. I wanted something to help me just maintain it and keep it manageable in case, I missed a week of cutting the grass. This is like all been maintained strictly by this little robot right here for the past 3 weeks. I haven't gotten my riding lawnmower out yet. And the reason I'm doing the video today is because I plan on tomorrow getting the lawnmower out, and there's a few little spots that you'll see along the way that I gotta go touch up. Some of those spots are because the obstacle avoidance causes it to leave that bahia, and it'll leave like a little clump of grass because of it. Other places are because I got no-go zones set, like around those trees right there. That's an angled, it's like steep. And one thing that I will tell you that I've learned with these robots so far is the shape of the tires and the way the motion apparatus, whether it be wheels, tires, tracks, or whatever, that does matter based on your yard. If my yard was mostly covered in grass with no rocks, no little ruts, no grooves, I think the robot would do much better. But that's not the case. And we're going to go over some things and recommendations that I would make if you're picking one out here in just a second. Once I show you what we got. See how smooth? Look at that. That right there looks great. I love the way that looks. But see right here to the left? That's that bahia grass that I was talking about. And what happens is once one or two of those little sprouts pop up, The obstacle avoidance basically tells the robot, hey, don't cut that. There's something there. And so it winds up leaving those little patches. And there's another patch right there. Part of the reason that little patch is as big as it is because that's a very steep incline. It's a little rough. I've got to do some filling and some dirt work down through there. And so the robot can't get in there, and it just allows that little patch to grow bigger and bigger. And you can see some stuff underneath these trees right here. All of that's set into a no-go zone because where there's no grass right there and those roots for that tree, the little caster wheels on the front of this one here will get hung on them, and it will sit there and dig a hole and bury itself. I have had to go pull it out of holes that it dug itself down in because this one is only two-wheel drive. The rear wheels both pull, but when it's turning, technically only one wheel turns, and then the front wheel's just caster. So this is the ideal grass situation for the robots right there. That's some of the nicer grass that I have in the yard. It's a little dry, not quite green right now, but that grass, it does really well. But once you get over into some of the other areas where, like I said, right here, these are no-go zones. You can see that's what the rest of the yard would look like if it weren't for the robot. But these are no-go zones because of the, unmaintained area around that tree that I've got to do some work with. But you can see there, I've got some little washes and stuff. So I can't let the robot get in there because it will get stuck. But once you come through those zones and you get back over into the decent grass up near the yard, it looks great. It's getting like 98% of it other than the bahia, and I'm happy with that. All right, guys, so welcome to the shop. And for those of you that don't know, this is where my YouTube presence actually began. And I've moved over into the house side of things with some of the other content. So if you're into CNCs, lasers, 3D printing, come check it out. The Clack Shack over on the other side of my channel. But because I only have one studio, I guess you could call it, this is what we're going to do this part of the video today. So one of the biggest things that I will say that I've learned through my personal research with the machine as well as experience with the machine is that when you're looking at getting one of these robots, you need to obviously look at the budget. And I will say I think there is a threshold to where some of the really cheaper machines, careful what you get, because you kind of get what you pay for with some of this technology stuff. And yes, it may be able to do the job, but the level of user input and the things that you have to do, whether it be burying wires or whatever, that might not be something that you want to do. So be sure to read up on whatever you decide to get because they don't all work the same. You have machines that use a wire and RTK. You have machines that just use wire. You have RTK machines with visual assistance. You have like mine where it's more or less it uses dual LiDAR to map it along with some visual sensors. There's a lot of different modes of mapping that these machines use. So be sure that the one that you get works for you. Everybody that I've watched videos, the RTK seems to have came a long way since its early induction into the robot lawnmowers. And it seems that as long as you can see the sky, especially in areas like where I'm at, you should be good with RTK. I was a little afraid of it in the beginning, but through research and watching other videos about other lawnmowers and stuff, it seems the technology is probably way better than what I had anticipated. So decide what kind of that technology you would like also. Once you figure out what price point you want to be in, because sometimes you can get like the RTK models a lot cheaper than you can say the LiDAR version like I have and stuff like that. And another big thing that you need to decide is how much area are you going to try to maintain with this robot, because the bigger the area, of course, the bigger the robot and as far as battery and all of that goes. And so if you're doing a little small yard, you can get by with a much more affordable version instead of having to step it on up. With me, I need something bigger technically. The one that I have is rated for 3/4 of an acre, and I've maxed my map out. It will not let me map any more of my yard because it says that I have reached the maximum, which I don't really understand that. I don't understand why in the app I can't have more area mapped out because I may not choose to do the whole thing in a day. So I think that's a bit of an oversight when they built the app. But I will say too, from some of the videos that I've watched, apps kind of seem to be the weak point in a lot of the machines. The apps just aren't quite as easy and as maybe they should be. But the technology is evolving daily. But you've got price, first of all, is one of the things that you need to look at. All right, the second one, like I said, that's going to be the amount of space that you're trying to mow. It doesn't hurt to get just a little bigger than what you think you need. It's just going to make sure that you definitely have that covered, and it's an adequate machine for your yard size. So I would say the third thing is your terrain type and border type. Because the type of navigation you need, whether you need LiDAR, whether visual avoidance would work, RTK, those things can be better suited for certain situations. As well as if your yard's like mine and you got a lot of hills and some steep grades, then an all-wheel drive or a tracked machine might be better for you, depending on the steepness of the grade, the smoothness of the ground. Because the thing that I have learned, when they say that the grade, it'll handle up to a 45-degree grade or a 28-degree grade, that is assuming that this is a well-maintained grade that doesn't have any ruts, that doesn't have any rocks, that doesn't have any, like, clumps where the grass is not growing. Because if you throw those things into the mix, and I've learned this from experience, what happens is as it's trying that extreme grade, the little caster wheel will catch on a rock or something and cause just enough resistance for the back wheels to start spinning. And once they start spinning, it's going to dig a hole. And sometimes it gets out of it, sometimes it doesn't. So keep in mind that when you look at the grade rating on these things, that is if it is a manicured, well-maintained, fully grassed, nice slope that it can grip on. But if you start adding the gravel and the things that allow the wheels to slip, or the things that kind of scotch those little casters on the front, now you got a problem as far as it can't jump over those things as easy. So that's something to think of too, is maybe you want just the two-wheel drive like what I'm using now, or maybe you want the four-wheel drive. I'm wanting a four-wheel drive. I either want a four-wheel drive or a track to go with the one I have. And what I plan to do is put one doing the flat parts of the yard, and then have the other one do those inhospitable areas with the slope. So that's another feature that I think is key in deciding which one of these things is best for you. Another thing that I didn't think about a whole lot, and in the early days of these little robots, there really wasn't a whole lot of choice, is the blade type, the cutting mechanism type. How often are you going to be cutting your grass? Is this a machine that you're going to let the grass get up kind of tall before you cut it? Or is this a robot that's going to be there and it's going to cut the grass like 2 or 3 times a week, and so it doesn't have to take a lot off of the grass? Because there's 2 different types of blades typically. I mean, I think there's 3 or 4 now on the market. But the basic 2 are going to be the small razor blade blades, and then you have the more like small lawnmower blades that they're making. The ones that actually, it's like a single piece steel blade versus the razor blade blades. The benefit of the razor blade ones, of course, are they're cheap. Like I ordered a replacement pack for mine the other day on Amazon. It was like $16 for a whole bunch of blades. So those are cheap. They're easy to keep, easy to put up, easy to install. But they do have limitations. You're not going to be going through really, really tall grass and cutting with these things under ideal conditions. I'm not saying they won't do it, but I would not recommend doing it on a regular basis, because the way that those things work is just not set up for that. It's made to spin really fast and be really sharp and knock grass down, but not to have a bunch of grass clumping up around the cutter head, because that's what you would end up with if you let it get too tall. The other type blade, like I said, the more traditional lawnmower-ish type blade, those are made for deeper, thicker, heavier grass and can handle that a little better. The torque on the motors are different, so this is a different animal. So depending on your setup as far as how often you plan on mowing, the type of grass you have, the type of yard or lawn that you're doing, I think you need to take those things into consideration when picking out, the type of blade. Me personally, I don't think that's as critical if you do it right. You've got to understand that each machine has its limitations as far as what it's capable of cutting. The one that I have is more of what I would consider a maintenance grass cutting robot. you have to get your grass in working order and get it looking nice, or get it cut down, you know, to where you want it, and then the robot will keep it that way. You maybe could just throw it out there with really tall grass and overrun, and maybe it could fix it. But I think you're going to be happiest and with the best results if you first get your yard looking like you want it to look, and then deploy the robot and have it keep it and maintain it that way. That's what I've been doing. It's worked great for me. I still, like I said, about every 3 weeks, I have to go out there and take the lawnmower and hit those few spots that it can't get to. Some of which are because they're no-go zones that I've got set, because I know it's going to get stuck if it goes in there. So that's a big part of, I think a lot of people buy the robots and they're like, well, I'm just going to throw it out there and I'll never have to cut grass again. Now, maybe if your yard is just happens to be perfect for that lawnmower, maybe you don't ever have to cut grass again. But I think 99% of us are still going to have a little weed eating, edging, trimming, whatever you want to call it, and a little bit of touch up to do. I don't think there's anybody that I know of in my community that has a yard that would not have some level of yard work to do after. Now, I do know some folks that design yards specifically to be robot mower friendly, and they know what the robots are capable of, and they design these lawns or yards or whatever you want to call it in a manner in which the robot can do all of it. But these folks, they go out with the intent of, let's make this thing robot friendly so that the homeowner doesn't have to cut grass, and they get good results. Now, there's still some, you know, somebody's got to pull the weeds out of the flower bed. There's still going to be yard work. But like I said, to me, these tools are not meant to replace yard work. They're meant to reduce yard work. So I think that's where you need to be. If you're looking at getting one of these things, go into it with realistic expectations and understand that this is going to be an assist. It's going to assist you in keeping your yard maintained. It's not going to completely do it for you. Like I said, just to recap, mine does a great job, guys. There's some of these places where it can't get to, but for the most part, I expected that. And when I went into it, I expected that there were going to be areas that it couldn't get, because I knew I wasn't getting the monster truck of lawnmowers. There were going to be places that it couldn't go because it gets stuck. I've got to do some slight improvements to my yard to fix some of these places. That'll make it better for it. But that's the thing that's going to take some time, and I need to kind of continue to watch it and figure out exactly where it needs help and just fix those places in my yard, whether it takes a little bit of sanding or maybe I need to get a couple of squares of sod to put down and get started, whatever the case may be. That's, you know, it's a work in progress, but I do plan to have it to where I can have most of my yard maintained by the robot. So there you go. Like I said, the basic machines that are out there today, I think there's one for everybody, but I don't think there's one that is for everybody. I think everyone's situation is going to be different based on terrain, cost effectiveness, you know, the size of your yard. Because you don't need to buy the biggest one on the block if your yard's not that big. So I think you just need to take the things into consideration, write yourself a little bit of notes, and then go forward from there looking at them. There's a couple of machines that I would really like to get my hands on to try out, and that's where I'm headed next, is to hopefully, I would like to try out one of the Yarbos, maybe a Limo, the tracked ones, because I think they'll do good on some of my hills, and the Momotion, the Yuccas, the 4-wheel drive ones. I really would like to see what one of those things can do on some of these hills and inclines that I have, because I like having the robots help me with the yard work. It's just awesome, and who wouldn't like it? So, all right, guys. So I hope the video was helpful. I did want to make this video just to kind of give you a realistic expectation. If you live in Alabama, your yard's similar to mine, or somewhere near Alabama, you know, you can't have unrealistic expectations and think that the yard is just going to be magically perfect every time the robot goes out. That's not the case in this situation. As technology gets better, I think that it will even do better jobs of getting it to where it's less input from the homeowner. But I kind of expected to have to do some work behind the machine, because it's a machine. It's a very limited scope of what it can do as far as edging and going up against the edge of the buildings and weed eating and stuff like that. So it has surpassed my expectations though. I really thought I would have to do more input, and some of the stuff, like we showed, some of this stuff, once I do improvements, I'm going to get better results from the machine, because I'm going to take some of the things that I've learned from its limitations, and I'm going to try to address those as far as ground keeping, getting rid of some of the bigger stones, trying to make sure that I put like maybe a layer of sand down to get some grass rooted. There's some things that I need to do to make its job easier. But all in all, guys, I'm very happy with the purchase, and I'm happy with the product, the technology in general. I look forward to seeing how we go from here, because the technology that's in these things is just amazing. It's like having a little, spacecraft in your yard, because of all the technologies on board that thing. But I hope you liked the video, guys. This is going to be the home for a lot of my around the house yard work type stuff. As you know, yes, the Clack Shack. That is my main channel. That's where I started out at, doing the lasers, 3D printing, CNCs, all that kind of stuff. So you can check out both channels. I've kind of diversified into 2 channels. Feel free to go subscribe and follow each one of them. We'll be putting content on each, especially as we get closer to retirement here in about 30 days. So until next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.